Is about doing the right thing even when no one is watching. The greatest discovery of all time is that a person can change his future by merely changing his attitude. That is by Oprah Winfrey. Welcome to this edition of our Integrated Watch radio program. It is a 1 hour radio program aired every Wednesday and Thursday on Truth 96.1 FM and ECOWAS Radio 91.5 FM. The show runs from 11 to 12 noon and is relayed on Prime FM 105.5 FM on Thursday with a repeat broadcast on Truth 96.1 FM. It serves as the primary radio and communication-based advocacy and information dissemination platform of the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia. It is a communication and advocacy tool that provides essential information around the state of the fight against corruption, national integrity building efforts, as well as promotes a culture of accountability, transparency, integrity, and evidence-based decision-making across all sectors of the country. Under Center's National Integrity Building and Anti-Corruption Program, funded by the government and people of Sweden through the Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency, the radio program serves as a coordination and engagement platform that rallies citizens and stakeholders' support for the fight against corruption and bad governance in Liberia. As part of Center's NIMBA program, the National Integrity Building Anti-Corruption Program, Center has established the Advocacy and Legal Advice Center, which is an independent platform that enables citizens to freely report and seek redress to corruption and other integrity-related issues within their communities, counties, and the country at large. Citizens are encouraged to freely report through the following mediums: via email. The email address for the LACC Center at Central is ALAC@CENTAL. It's alaccentral.org.lr. You can also contact us on Facebook. It's Center ALAC. You can contact us on Facebook, and we have the toll-free lines that you can call to report issues of corruption and integrity. So we will announce the numbers later because we don't want to have the conflict of people taking the number for the studio number. So we're going to announce the ALAC Center number later so that you can call when, or maybe about the close of the program, we announce the numbers that you can call, you can text, and you can also walk in. You can walk into the ALAC Center right at the atop the Lucky Pharmacy, and then opposite the John F. Kennedy Medical Center. So you just visit the Central, and then you can be able to have a team of lawyers who are there to be able to take care of whatever complaint that you may bring to their attention. This platform is informative, educative, and is void of inventive, and we guide our guests and all those appearing on this show against the use of denigrating comments. So we give our guests the respect, and we don't, even the callers, we don't allow callers to use any comment. If you don't have proof for anything, we don't allow you to just rain insult on our guests, and we control whatever comes in when our guests appear on the show. And the guests too are guided by what the program stands for. So today, we are playing Spotlight on the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission, and we have now in studio Mr. Moses Kowo. Moses Kowo is a program officer for community relations at the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission. So we'll be joined later on by Mr. Zobon Kolenky. He is the head of asset declaration and verification at the LACC. So we'll have our two guests in studio to discuss issues about the LACC working and other things that we'll cover today. Mr. Kowo, you're welcome to the studio.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you.
How's the family doing?
We're fine, thank God.
Yeah, okay. How's the LACC?
The LACC is doing great. We're happy.
Alright. Like I said, we will be joined later on by Mr. Kolenky, who is the head of asset declaration at the LACC. So we will begin the ball rolling with Moses. So Moses will tell us to just specify the role of the LACC from other integrity institutions, because people normally confuse the work of the LACC with the GAC, the RAA, and other institutions that are fighting corruption and other integrity institutions. What specific role does the LACC play in terms of the fight against corruption?
The LACC was established in 2008 by an act of the National Legislature, specifically as the lead government institution responsible to fight corruption. And corruption, basically, from the LACC's standpoint, is the diversion of public resources into private use. That is further elaborated on in the act creating the commission. The LACC focuses on corruption, and it entails several aspects of corruption that other integrity institutions, they have their own niche or they have their own areas of specialization. But for the LACC, we focus on issues of corruption, and that is exclusively for the LACC. The LACC goes about different forms of corruption, issues of bribery, which is the common form of corruption we see in our society, wherein people give and take things as an inducement for the performance of a particular duty, wherein as a public official, you are already being paid by the government and taxpayers' money. And then if you are supposed to render a service to an individual, the individual have to give you additional funding or resources that is not your salary and is coming as a backdrop of an inducement for you to perform a responsibility that you are already paid to perform. So these are things to deal with, and we deal with it before we investigate these things while it is ongoing. We also investigate after you are committed the act. So the LACC, like I said, is distinct from other integrity institutions because, like the GSC, to the best of my knowledge, the GSC is post. They do audits, they do post, they examine financial statements. That is, after you've expended public resources, the GSC now goes in and say, how did you spend this money? What are the specific documentation? Did you follow public procurement regulations? Did you follow the PFM Act or the Public Financial Management document before you can expend these resources? So they are basically about that. The internal audit agency is sitting there to help management control issues, and show that management in various government ministries and agencies carry out issues of control. But specifically with the LACC, we deal with corruption cases, issue of bribery, issue of collusion, issue of conflict of interest. We deal with misuse of entrusted properties. Different forms of corruption issues the LACC handle, but basically the prevalent form of corruption that we keep dealing with at the LACC surrounds issues of bribery, wherein public officials take bribe, or maybe private institutions give public officials bribe to perform a particular duty in which they're already being paid to perform.
Okay. The LACC, the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission, was established in 2008. And since its establishment, you've been working, trying to build integrity and trying to fight corruption in Liberia. Just explain to us, how has your work over the years been? How effective have you implemented your core duties?
The LACC has been doing very well since its establishment more than a decade ago. We are not basically happy about where we are, but based on the available resources, the infrastructure needed to fight corruption, I think the LACC has been doing well. Every institution will have one or two challenges, but generally the LACC has been bringing people to book. The LACC has several cases in court. We are carrying on corruption education, corruption prevention. We also have a very strong legal team that have been running through the courts in order to get cases of corruption on the docket of the court. So the LAC is not, we're not going to throw our party for where we are, but we basically think that based on the work we have been doing, we have been significantly able to move into different government ministries and agencies to perform different responsibilities. We have investigated the County Development Fund. We've gone into the national budget, different public resources. We also conducted anti-corruption prevention efforts through risk assessment. We've done a lot of risk assessment that in this country, like for example, in 2013, the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission conducted a risk assessment of the education sector and how prevalent is corruption in the education sector. And that report was released where we found that majority of the students in some of the schools that were surveyed said they work for the teachers to be able to get promotion or so in different forms. I think they work in they provide bribe in different ways in some public institutions that we surveyed in 2013. So we also did risk assessment on the water sector that was sponsored by different organizations on the prevalence of corruption in the water sector, and we found that the water treatment plant in Mine Coffee is total capacity of around 4 million barrels of gallons, White Plains, 4 million gallons a day. Majority of those, 75% of those were going through, were not reaching the customers, and some were lost in corruption. So there are so many things we have done at the LACC, including direct investigation. Of course, we've been asking for additional instruments to be able to give us additional teeth to bite in the fight against corruption. We've been asking for illicit enrichment law. We've been asking for a special code on corruption that would deal specifically with corruption issues, because we have the belief that criminal code, the only criminal economic crimes court in the country, might be overloaded to deal with all the corruption cases we might want to see go through. So we've been asking that we have a special code on corruption like it's done in other countries like Uganda. Uganda has sufficient, more of these corruption cases going through because there's a special code there, specifically a special prosecutor dealing directly with corruption cases. So we've been asking for other instruments, but by and large, since the establishment of the commission, we've been doing our job.
All right, you talked about the legal team, and they've been working and they've been prosecuting cases. Do you care to mention maybe some of the cases, the high-profile cases that the LACC has prosecuted so far?
The LACC has been, we might not be having convictions, but the LACC, just recently, the LACC won a case involving the senator from Sino County. We also won a case involving the former Minister of Defense that have been taken to the Supreme Court. So there are so many cases that the LACC can count on, but these are recent cases that have been spearheaded by the current leadership at the LACC, and we are happy that our legal team have been aggressive in these directions.
So okay, but maybe you can just follow. You talk about you are happy with where you are, generally, meaning you have the other challenges apart from the laws that you want to see passed to give you teeth to bite and all of that. What are some of the things that may be posing challenge to, apart from laws, that you want to have?
Normally, the LACC have been asking for financial autonomy.
Okay.
If you have an integrity institution like the LACC will have sufficient financial autonomy, wherein we have to run our budgets every month or every quarter through the Ministry of Finance. Since the establishment of the LACC, that has been posing a lot of challenge, because investigators and corruption prevention officers will have to be deployed maybe abruptly. And if you have internal resources that can cater for those abrupt deployment, it will be good. But like you know, the LACC has always been constrained by financial issues. We don't have the necessary finances, we don't have the logistics, the necessary infrastructure. And like you know, investigation, the fraud investigation and corruption investigation is going in depth. Some of the criminals are going through the internet system. They're going through RCT. So there's a lot of issues of capacity that the LACC has been looking forward to in terms of going, because we have to be ahead of those who commit crime, economic crime against the state.
Okay.
If they are using computer, we have to be able to go ahead and understand how they manipulate internet systems, how they manipulate financial instruments to be able to run through, to accomplish their aim. So there are several factors that the key among them is if the LACC is able to have that financial independence, the financial autonomy, wherein we have resources to be able to move fast, to be able to get all of our logistics. Like you know, Sam Zota, the LACC only has office in Monrovia.
Okay.
The LACC is not fully decentralized because of the lack of resources. So we have to shoot night auditors or investigators from Monrovia to River G. We have to shoot auditors and investigators from here to Banga, from here to Vonjama, from here to Maryland. We will have at least regional offices, wherein we have regional offices. One is Wedru, another one maybe in Banga, and another one in Todmanberg, wherein all the investigators, corruption prevention officers are permanently stationed in these areas, wherein when there's an issue or corruption incident in Bapulu, someone can move from Todmanberg and easily get to Bapulu. Someone can move from Todmanberg and easily get to Rabosport. If you have someone in Banga, the Banga person can shoot into Ganta or Sanikole and then into Vonjama or maybe Kolahu or Foya. But in a situation where everyone is in Monrovia because of the lack of resources and capacity, it will be a difficult thing to fully monitor. If you have training, you have people talking about issues of corruption in the local government areas, but we are not permanently seated there.
All right, thank you. While Moses was talking, we had working in studio, Mr. Zobon Kolenky. Mr. Kolenky, you're welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And I'd like to say the list in public. Sorry for my late coming. I had some issues to the office.
Better late than never. Thank you for coming. Okay, how's the family?
Yeah, we found we healing.
Okay, thank you. All right, we come straight to you with our question. The purpose of the code of conduct is to set out standards of behavior, the conduct required of public officials and employees of government. It shall guide, regulate, and ensure compliance with the norms and behaviors required of all public officials and employees of government. It is designed and shall be implemented to ensure impartiality, objectivity, transparency, integrity, efficiency, and effectiveness in the performance and of the duties and mandates. So let's understand how is the LACC, because as per your act, you're supposed to make sure that these different policies do prevention. So in prevention is part of your role to make sure that you prevent corruption. How is LACC working for the enforcement and making sure that all of these things are as listed in the code of conduct are followed?
Well, when you speak about those things, I would say the framers of the law actually intended making angels out of men.
Okay.
But men being men, they will deviate from these tenets.
Right.
And those are things that you see in society. That is why society is the way society is.
Okay.
However, be as it may, the LACC as an institution can do research, and see where there are lapses and recommend changes. For instance, prior to the establishment of the LACC, or on the establishment of the LACC, you had the issue of the code of conduct that requires officials of government filing their assets, all right, prior to entering office. That is a major prevention tool.
Yes.
The reason it's so important is because bribery and corruption sometimes is quantified in dollars and cents. If I use my office for self-enrichment, I translate that money into other real estate or luxurious goods or whatever the case may be. So they say, look, since you're coming into office, let us know how you are coming into office. Let us know your financial standing. That is it. So you tell the people, what is your net worth? You say, I'm coming to office, your house, your car, money in bank, everything you own is $50,000 as at today.
Yes.
You are hired by government. Monthly gross salary of $3,000. Taxes removed and everything, assuming you get $2,500 monthly. 10 months, that's $25,000. 1 year is about $30,000. You file your asset. In 3 years' time, you build a house which is valued $150,000. You gave your exit declaration. We compare what you're living with and what you came in with. We see a huge disparity in terms of what you've earned as a public official. We are not negating the fact that you may have other sources of income. Those will be stated on your entry. Or when you make those new developments, you should be able to refile indicating that I now have an establishment. Either I'm into diamond mining, coal mining, or I'm into lottery playing as a habit because I want to be rich.
Then it brings in your
additional
verification.
Yes.
How do you verify?
That's what I'm coming to.
Okay.
You tell us you have additional income. When we come to look at your exit and see that you have acquired assets more than what you were earning in the government, you should have the burden of telling us how did you earn this extra money to acquire this asset. Not forgetting that you have recurring costs every month as an individual. There are expenses you make. So your $2,500 doesn't go all into the bank to build a house or into the building construction man's hand. You have to take all your living expenses. You may have extended family. Your wife wants to face her hair. Your children are in Cali school. Even some of them are in the best of schools in Monrovia. And when you do all of those deductions, let's see the balance. So that is why asset declaration is a key tool. So people who are failing to file asset, it just tells you that from the get-go, they have sinister motives.
So what do you do to make sure that these things are followed to the letter, to prevent these things from happening? What do you do?
Very good. In implementing this law, the first thing is people want to see that the president will take action against people who do not do it, who do not file the asset.
Okay.
Because the law only says you should file. But technically, it doesn't say what happens to you if you do not file. So there are people who look at it and say, worst case, if I do not file, what do you do to me? Are you getting me? Now, we drafted a regulation which calls for holding a salary and what have you. That regulation has not been enforced to the letter, okay? But we are looking at a situation wherein we will graduate to the stage wherein you know you're supposed to file and you don't file. We hold your salary until you file. You even supposed to pay a fine for not filing. That's the level we are getting to.
Okay.
So because there's the only way you can fight corruption through all the spectrums of government.
So that you were explaining about declaration. One declare an asset, and then maybe the under declare or the over declared. Let's take for instance under declaring. And then they declared, or after their tenure in office, they have acquired more than what they declared. Do you have the power to seize?
The LACC Act called for seizure of assets.
Sure.
We have a portion there, 5.1 or so, where you talk about asset seizure and freezing. All right, all of this is subject to court action. For instance, I'm in education and prevention. If I see something, my role is to send it to the enforcement division. Those are the guys that carry badges and handcuffs. All right. They will now call you now into a formal criminal investigation, financial crime investigation. Okay. Now, if somebody is found wanting, that person, the list of a charge should be perjury first thing. Just falsely declaring your asset is subject to a crime of perjury, because you are notarizing your asset declaration and a call for you taking an oath that what you have said to Liberian people is true. So if you lie on your asset declaration, it's tantamount to you being charged with perjury. Then, if you're hiding asset or you understating asset, and it is seen that you have more than what you have declared, that should even call for further investigation. That should call for further investigation.
Have you had anything of such?
We've had instances where people honor declare. We've had instances where people honor declare.
All right.
Yes.
What did you do?
What did we do as asset declaration?
Yeah, as a team.
What we do is to report to the enforcement division.
All right.
But for me as a person or as a professional, I'm looking at best practice. The maximum penalty. You just need to set example on one or two persons who will walk away from the house. Their house will be used for other children's hospital or elementary school, and they go with a shirt on their back, and if the dogs still love them.
When do we get to that point?
We have the illicit financial enrichment law, my brother. Then you have teeth to bite. Like I'm saying, as our criminal law is now, the burden of proof is only when I charge anybody or I tell anybody you are corrupt or you did something. But it's supposed to shift in the illicit enrichment law. He's supposed to be telling me how he got the additional money on the asset he owned. Until we can get to that point, you won't have a huge bite. I'm really praying that we can get to that stage before the end of this government.
You want to add?
Yeah, the Zobon strike an important point. Yeah. The illicit enrichment act. The illicit enrichment act will help the assets declaration process very well, because by that, Mr. Kolenky, who has the assets declaration session, can basically see someone and say, based on the information and what you are making and what you file, you're actually living beyond your means. Those things you have here are not included in, based on our verification, they are not included. The assets, the illicit enrichment act allows the LACC to call in someone anytime to answer a question on having property more than what he or she has declared. In fact, like I said the last time, I don't know what is on this show, the International Convention Against Corruption that was enacted by the United Nations General Assembly in 2003 places a lot of emphasis on illicit enrichment, and it ties around assets declaration. If you have assets, if you're using assets or you're carrying assets more than what the public knows about or what the public is informed about, the anti-corruption officials can call you in for questioning. But at the moment, we don't have that power to call Moses Kowo or to call Zobon Kolenky from the street when he's living beyond his means. So if you have a society wherein there's sufficient law, and the LACC will be willing to use that law to ensure that people live within their means. So if you have an asset that is in the possession of the LACC that is far below, because the assets declaration is two sides. Someone can honor declare, someone can also over declare. The person might over declare with the intention that in the end, when I accrue my property, when they call me, it will cover up. So it's a two side, it's a two-way street. But most times people fear they honor declare because they don't want to get everything for society to go after them. Now, this man doesn't have the power that the assets declaration at LACC doesn't have the power now to go after people who honor declare, because there's no legal instrument to really go after it. Like he said, basically, he turn you over to the enforcement section.
All right. Okay. Public officials. The essence of the code of the essence of governance is the integrity of public service, as delivered and rendered by public officials and employees of government, and their activities account for a majority of the work of government and have extensive influence over the lives of the people. As LACC, your role you investigate, you prosecute, and you prevent acts of corruption of public officials in Liberia and ensure adherence to the rule of law, especially the code of conduct and other laws. So, in terms of preventing, how are you ensuring, making sure that, okay, we'll talk about that, but maybe you can just further elaborate on making sure that we prevent all of these things you just explained. We have not reached the passage of the law, but maybe education, making sure that people who come to office are educated and all of these things. How are you ensuring that until we can reach the point of passage of the law?
Thank you very much. As anti-corruption practitioners, we continue to go through continuous training. And in one of our training, which was supported by the U.S. government, we did what we call corruption risk assessment. An expert was sent to Liberia and we went up Mama Point and did that training. With the corruption risk assessment, I can come to this studio now, for instance, and ask about the workflow. And my concern about the finances. Maybe we want to know whether there are issues here, all right, or policy issue or something. Based on the workflow, you can pinpoint offices here that are prone to corruption. Get me right, that they're not corrupt, but they're susceptible to being corrupt. Yeah, you can do that corruption risk assessment. LACC as an institution has done corruption risk assessment at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, specifically at the passport section, at the Ministry of Health, at the National Port Authority, and what have you. When they go there, based on the same workflow thing, they see the susceptibility. They do their report and they send it back to the institution to validate or make their comments, so that they all agree on one thing, and then they give recommendation for changes. For instance, I will use one commodity, the driver license or vehicle registration. What is wrong with the director for vehicle registration doing a bullet point? You come to register
requirements.
Yeah, you do this, you do this, you do that. Not more than 5 or 10. And where it is cross-cutting, meaning that I gotta go to the man and come out to the man and go to the man. Why you can't just put all together when I come to him? My people doesn't have to come in 2 times. You get in there? Secondly, what is wrong with them putting a hotline under those instructions that if anybody asks you for money or to do anything, call this number, and that number is actually working. And that staff in the morning, before they open shop, are told this is what we're going to work with, okay? And this is what we're going to do to prevent anybody who will not work with it. The people will call me, I will take action. What is wrong with that? So we will make recommendation, and it is left with the heads of those sections, those units, to implement the recommendation. If they do not do it, then it means they are encouraging their colleagues or their subordinates to give the institution a bad name, and by extension the government a bad name. So you go in there, you see the risks, you advise, and then you leave from there. That's what we do. Yeah.
All right, you listen to the program Integrity Watch. It's a 1-hour radio program aired every Wednesday and Thursday on Truth 96.1 FM and Echoes Radio 91.5 FM. It runs from 11 to 12 noon, and it is relayed on Thursday on Prime FM 105.5 FM, and a repeat broadcast comes on Saturday from 6 to 7 p.m. The show is a radio and communication-based information dissemination platform of the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia Center. It is a key communication and advocacy tool that provides essential information around the fight against corruption, national integrity and efforts, as well as promote the culture of accountability, transparency, and integrity, as well as evidence-based decision-making across all sectors of Liberia. So, listeners, you can now begin putting in your calls at 0775 373 652. Again, 0775 373 652. 0775 0775 373 657 0775 373 657. That's the number you can call to begin putting in your calls on this program, Integrity Watch. It is a 1-hour program brought to you by the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia, with support from the government and people are switching through the Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency. Let's look at section 5.2a of the LACC Act. It provides that the LACC has the power to investigate all acts of corruption discovered or reported to have occurred in public, private, civil society sectors of Liberia, subsequent to the passage of the Act, with the aim of identifying persons and the extent of the loss or of damage to any public and or private property as a result of the subject of corruption. In order to discover, one has to go after. So, does the LACC go after, suspicions of corruption? Okay, we got a caller on the line. Good morning, caller. Your name and where are you calling from? Okay, Moses, go ahead. Moses, wait a minute. What did he say? Moses, we're not talking about TRC. We are talking about corruption and not TRC. Thank you. All right, Howard, trying to ask a question about, before you discovery, it means that you have to go after, you have to investigate. So do you investigate cases of corruption without report coming to you? Because your act is saying you need to discover corruption, and then the reporter will all report it. So do you investigate by yourself as LACC? Maybe speculations about corruption in a particular institution?
The Act says, Section 5.2a says, the other LACC provides that the LACC has the power to investigate all acts of corruption discovered. All acts of corruption discovered. It is an intermingling relationship. We depend on the GAC. We depend on the RAA. We depend on the public because it takes two to tango. If you went to go do a transaction at a ministry, at an agency, I'm not talking about $5, $10. I mean, I'm not saying that it's right. $5, $10 liberty, back water for security. Man, who say, "Papa, we yell." No, I'm talking about when you go to do something that I'm employed to do, and I look at your eyeball, where I tell you, look, find me this amount in order for me to.
We'll hold you there and go to our caller. Good morning, caller. Your name and where are you calling from? Okay, Moses. Yes. All right. Was it? Okay. All right. Your points are well taken. Thank you so much, Moses. Moses is saying there's no rule of law.
Yes, like Moses is saying now.
All right.
John Doe says, "Give me $5,000 to give you the permit." You getting me? Whereas maybe the government folks say pay $300 for the permit, and you, because you want to do business, you get on and get John Doe the $5,000. He gives you the permit, then you can't say the government corrupt. They meant to hold $5,000 from me for the permit. Whereas, in my own understanding, you should have recourse. Tell John Doe, I really need this thing, but if you cannot give it to me, I will have to use.
Okay, we got another caller on the line. Good morning, caller. Your name and where are you calling from? Okay, Mr. Miller. Go on. Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. All right, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Miller. That's why I wanted to bring it to your attention because we all can fight corruption if we start from the home, making sure that we train our children to be, to come up with integrity. Then we will be able to fight corruption. When we build integrity, we can fight corruption. You were talking about the issue, or maybe you can talk about Mr. Miller. He's talking about it's not possible to fight corruption at all.
Mr. Miller is striking a salient point. But you cannot give up in life. You cannot give up in life. If you are walking across the desert and you're halfway and you meet another man coming and you thirsty and you ask him how far I'm out to the next town where I can get water, and he tell you just go halfway, you don't fall in the desert and die. You keep moving. If you will crawl, you crawl. If you will roll, you roll. But get to your destination. Liberia as a country, we have so much resources. Our country by itself is like a garden. It is naturally navigated by water. You have water permeating through all the length and breadth of Liberia. So if you just depend on agriculture alone for Liberia, we can feed ourselves. What is the issue? He's saying it from the family. If from the family, I won't agree with him. As a husband, when I take my full money or my earnings and give it to girlfriend, I'm cheating my family. Okay? If my wife take the money and go do susu for her own self, she's cheating the family. My children see my wife sending food to Uncle John near the house there, and they know that when I'm appearing, it will not happen, but it's done only when I'm not away. The children are learning and they know that their man can have something and send it somewhere. So this is serious. What he's saying is serious. How can you kill 13 persons and you still have the same situation of people not being afraid for their life? I also think, I was just saying it this morning, that African justice should be different from European or Western justice. Yeah, because we sign out to so many treaties, but African justice maybe will help us. Like he said,
we are part of a global village. So, Moses, you can have 3 seconds.
Zebi, calling the main office name. Mr. Kolenky was speaking to several issues relating.
Okay, we got another caller on the line. Caller, your name and where are you calling from? Go ahead, Daniel. Okay. Pollution, right?
So,
you got a question?
yeah.
All right. Okay. Listeners, viewers, you are also encouraged to leave your comments on our live Facebook feed. This program is being aired, is being screened on our Facebook page, on Central Facebook page, so you can leave your comments, and we'll have your comments read, and then if there are questions, the guests will answer your questions. So you can also leave your comments on our Facebook feed. Mr. Mark Bondao is making sure that our visibility is far, far beyond the studio of RCI. Yeah, Mr. But Moses, you were trying to add something.
Yeah, let me just, I want to speak to the callers concerned about collusion.
Yeah.
He raised an important point. Collusion is part of the form of corruption that is difficult to detect because it's undocumented.
All right.
Collusion is an agreement between 2 or 3 persons to defraud a system without formal documentation. So basically, this one, someone have to be there and see them. They have to be physical, where someone can admit and say, "Oh, I'm involved in this," or maybe I was listing some of the issues that lead to when you ask about the discovery. How do we go about finding corruption cases?
Okay.
Sometimes people, same Zota and Moses Kowo will meet, and then someone give us $2,000 to distribute, and maybe I take 1,500 and I give you 500. That disgruntlement in you will lead to you reporting. So that is not documented, but you can come on and say, "Oh, we are supposed to charge this particular person around 500, but we charge him like 200, so the remaining 300 he gave it to us, and then we share it, but he took more." So with that, the two of you will be called in. So that's how people get the collusion. There's no documentation. Additionally, some of the areas that the LACC or any investigation institution can be able to get corruption cases are whistleblowing. And the tips, whistleblowing like tips. People walk into the studio or in your offices and say there's a situation, radio announcement, radio news. When the LACC hear your name on the radio that this is allegedly done by you, the LACC has a right to call you for further inquiry. Newspaper, and also other reports and other financial reports. I want to point out here that not all of the information about corruption that is at the LACC go further in investigation.
Why?
Because some of them there are merits.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you walk in and say this is the situation, that will be scrutinized. That information will be clearly. There will be a lot of analysis of that information. Then thereafter, if it meets certain benchmark, then it's presented to the Board of Commissioners. Maybe the commissioner responsible for investigation. Then from there, it goes to the Board of Commissioners to decide on what goes on with that particular investigation. But not everything we hear on radio, not everything we see in the newspaper. Sometimes we take the newspaper at the LACC, we go through, do preliminary investigation. Some of them don't qualify to go further, so we just drop it by the way. There's why sometimes you have 10 reports of investigation of a corruption, so you take 2 or 3 and put it forward for investigation because they have evidence. Because we don't want to be involved in.
Okay, we got a caller on the line. Good morning, caller. Your name and where are you calling from? Okay, Moses. All right. Okay. Go ahead, Moses. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Moses. Thank you. Okay, Moses Charlie. All right, Moses Kowo, just complete your comments so that we can go to our next question.
Yeah, these are some of the areas we look at, and we investigate some of these things. Some of them go further, some of them stop on the highway because in the end there's not sufficient information to warrant a prosecution of it, because corruption investigation is expensive. So to take any corruption case to a court, you must have all the evidence. Meanwhile, with the LACC working with the Ministry of Justice to prosecute cases and all these things, you have to have sufficient evidence to be able to go to court.
Okay, Moses. All right. There have been suspicions, mounting suspicions over the president of Liberia. his constructions of properties and other things since the ascendancy to the presidency of Nigeria. Section 5.2c of the LACC Act, it provides the LACC Act empowers the LACC to examine and investigate any information, matter or report that indicates or raises suspicion that the conduct, action or decision of a public or private official. So it goes on and on. So it talks about suspicion, that raises suspicion and all of that. You're supposed to go after them to investigate. Do you have they come to your attention that you're supposed to investigate the issue?
I don't know specifically what issue you're
I'm talking about the president of Liberia. As soon as he took office, there have been suspicions about him, acquiring properties and constructing buildings and all around. That didn't happen, according to the people, when he was senator or before in his private life. But as soon as he ascended to the presidency, all of this started to happen. So Section 5.2 of the LACC Act is asking you, empowering the LACC to investigate any information about corruption of such matter or suspicion that raises suspicion.
Okay, I want to give a professional answer to this.
Please go ahead.
Like I've always done. The last time I went to a training, and similar question was raised when I was addressing a training for some young people on corruption. And I'll give this answer everywhere. The LACC as an institution is not stopping an individual, whether it's the president or institution, for constructing a property.
All right.
If you say the person is constructing a property and he didn't construct the property when he was a senator or ordinary citizen, you have to look at several factors.
Okay.
One, is a public official living beyond his means by that particular construction? Is that public official living beyond his means? Meaning, if Sen Zota is constructing, if Sen Zota is constructing a property, Sen Zota is it possible that Sen Zota has the financial capacity to construct that property? So these are things we look at. Is it possible that the person has the financial capacity? The issue of whether the person is constructing, the person shouldn't construct it at this time. I don't want to go into the politics of that, but technically, what the professional anti-corruption people look at is the property being constructed beyond the financial capacity of the person who's constructing the property. So if the property being constructed is beyond the financial capacity of the person who constructing the property, it raises question.
Okay.
But if the person who's constructing the property has the financial capacity, it's within the person means. Like for me, I can enter the studio and ask you, I say, Sam Zota, what is your salary? You tell me your salary. I say, write your salary on a book. You write your salary. And I look at your dress code, I look at your watch, I look at your cell phone, I look at your dress code. I say, Sam Zota, based on the salary you show me as a fraud examiner, I look at you, you have to tell me other information. If there's your income per month, I think you are living beyond your means.
So I bring it to the point that Mr. Kolenky was trying to answer about, declaring assets, and then you are living beyond your assets and all of that.
Yeah.
So how do you try to reconcile all of that? Because public officials, which include the president and everybody, when they declare assets, you verify the assets. And you try to follow how they are going about it. That's the question I'm asking.
You raise specific issue about the presidency. Like I said, this answer, and I told the young people at that training, the answer I'm giving as a professional, I can defend the answer anywhere.
All right.
I'm prepared to give the same answer anywhere in the world. That, take for instance, I don't want to go into the politics of it, but the individual.
All right.
Is the individual not able to construct that property on his own based on the work he has done in the past, based on his profession, and based on his current position, and based on his assets he has declared, with all of the property in his assets, is he not able to construct? If he's not able, then then further investigation can be conducted and based on his salary. But
So
if he's able,
you examined that already, and you know that he's able to do it. That's what you are saying.
no, I'm not. I mean, it's for everyone knows the president.
All right.
You know where he worked before, his profession, and all these things. You know them,
All right.
so you can make an assessment. I have not been able to see his assets declaration papers,
Okay, all
but
right.
you have to do your assessment and
All right,
say
thank you.
it's
Thank
within
you.
his
Thank you
means
for
or
your
it's not within
answer.
his means.
Thank you for your answer. How many assets have the LACC traced and identified, maybe to be frozen, because you have that mandate, section 5.2E of the LACC Act. You're supposed to identify, maybe you have the power to freeze assets.
We won't state any numbers.
Right.
Maybe discover things, they continue to go on a further investigation,
Right.
and so it will not be good to state any number right now. But what we can tell you is that the asset declaration regime is yielding the necessary fruits, and at the appropriate time, the public will be in the know.
Okay. Are you considering further investigating Kolenky County Senator Councilor Vani Bodomani?
Councillor Sharma, I've not received any
Since
asset
last week.
declaration copy for him yet.
As LACC regarding the issue about corruption, where the U.S. government.
Oh, no, I can't speak to that. The general thing about what happened, I can't speak to that.
So you don't have any information about the issue about Councilor Sharma and the ban on the U.S. government, how he grabbed, allegedly grabbed, and all of that.
Yeah, the LACC, we've not gone into such an investigation. It's a situation that is happening currently, so maybe you can leave that with.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
All
not.
right,
It's an active case.
You've
It's an
been
active
listening.
issue.
You've been listening to the program Integrity Watch. Integrity Watch is a 1-hour radio program brought to you by the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia, with support from the government and people of Sweden, through the Swedish International Development Corporation Agency, SIDA. So the program comes to you on every Wednesday and Thursday on Truth 96.1 FM and Echoes Radio 91.5 FM. It runs from 11 to 12 noon and is relayed on Prime FM 105.5 FM on Thursday. I've been having in studio Mr. Zobon Kolenky. He is the head of Asset Declaration and Verification at the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission, and Mr. Moses Kowo is Program Officer for community relations at the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission. My name is Sam Zota. I'm the Media and Communication Officer at the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia. Mr. Mark Bondao has been in studio with us, making sure that we go beyond the studio with our visibility. So join us next week, same time, same station, for another fresh edition of the program. Better still, join the station on Saturday from 6 to 7 p.m. for a repeat of the program. See you next time.
This Saturday? Yeah.